Looks like we're missing one person, Miss Tracy, and we'll wait to hear her come. So, welcome to the Planning Commission, October 1st, for October. Looks like we have a crowd to see us today, and I'm sure there's something hot on the topic, because we usually don't have this many people. So, welcome. Look forward to visiting with you tonight and getting to the public opinion on a lot of items. We will start tonight's meeting, opening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you guys will all please rise. And if you'll repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll begin tonight's meeting with the approval of minutes for September 3rd. If I could have the members of the commission review those. And we've had those ahead of time. If there's anybody that wants to make any adjustments to those.
Kimberly, the only thing I see is that you wrote Commission Fallon rather than Commissioner.
Oh, okay.
So just add an ER. That's the only thing I saw.
I like commission better.
And I want to pay attention to make sure that the changes for applicant Terry Ficklin, not changes, but the conversation is properly annotated. There was a lot of comments made, a lot of things going back and forth. So let's just make sure the final comments are accurate. As we are continuing that tonight, we want to make sure that what was said last week is accurate before we move on for tonight. Did you make the movement to continue or not?
That's right. I think it looked right. I read through it today. Yeah.
So with that said, can we have a motion, please, to approve the minutes for September 3rd?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for September 3rd.
We have a motion by Commissioner Swenson,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Fallon. First item on tonight's agenda is the zone map amendment for the SUVSWD, which is basically the waste management system. I don't know why they have a bunch of acronyms. So the applicant is Terry Ficklin. There is a public hearing, so how this will work, I'm thinking that a lot of these people in this audience are here to address that. The staff will address us on things that took place from the staff. The commission will then, at this time, engage conversation with the applicant. After the applicant has a chance to speak, we will then engage the public at a public hearing. We will close the public hearing, and at that time, we will let the applicant speak again if there's further clarification that is needed. So at this time, Mr. Anderson, will you let us up to speed on what's going on with that project?
You bet, thank you, and I appreciate the way that you started things off. But just to reiterate, we did talk about this in your meeting last month a little bit. Of course, you continued the public hearing from that meeting, and at that point in time, we weren't exactly sure if we'd have another hearing tonight or if it would be next month or some time into the future. So we've gone ahead and re-noticed this proposal to have a public hearing tonight. Let me just speak almost from a personal perspective a little bit. I really appreciated the discussion that we had last month. I felt like the concerns that were raised by residents in the area that came to talk about the proposal. Occasionally we get very emotionally charged comments, pretty subjective comments, but I felt like the different concerns that were raised. They were very rational, reasonable, and frankly, probably things that we should have thought about in advance and been better prepared to address that night versus continuing the discussion to this evening. So what has happened simply from last month to tonight is that the Solid Waste District has prepared a presentation that we'll view in just a minute. That presentation, as I understand it, was really created based on the feedback that we were given in last month's hearing. And it's certainly hoped that that will address the concerns that were raised then, but that's for you guys to decide. With that said, just a little bit more background on the proposal itself. We're talking about a 40-acre parcel that's located just north of the airport. In fact, now the runway crosses this roadway here. This is a veterinary clinic. There's now a cul-de-sac because of the runway extension, which basically is a dead end on this roadway at that point today. The subject property is currently zoned light industrial, and the proposal is to change it to public facilities. So just to talk about that from a zoning perspective for a minute before we get into a little bit of the actual reasoning behind the proposal. Yeah.
Is there a chance we can get a view also that gives us a bigger perspective of maybe that industrial park and how it all kind of lays out? Thank you.
So Chris, yeah, I don't know if you can maybe turn on the zoning, but I think that might be helpful. And this will, just speaking about zoning, again, the subject property is currently zoned light industrial. This gray hue that we have here, that follows the city boundary, and this is our light industrial zoning district. So you can see that the majority of the area around the subject property, which is right here, in fact, all of the properties that are in Spanish Fork surrounding that property are currently zoned light industrial. Maybe one good way to characterize that light industrial zoning district is that it's sort of a catch-all zone. We allow for a lot of different uses in that zoning district. Everything from manufacturing to professional offices to retail. But the real intent of that zone is that it will allow for land uses that are going to generate employment. This is where we want to have jobs, people earning their livelihood, companies that produce things here that are maybe sold elsewhere, therefore helping our local economy. This really is our economic development part of the community. Now with that said, we made a change to our light industrial zone by way of the allowed uses in August. And at the same time, we changed our public facilities zone, which, to talk about the public facilities zone for just a minute, we have a zoning district that is intended to cover or be applied to properties that are owned by different governmental entities or entities that are kind of quasi-governmental, things like what we're going to talk about tonight, the solid waste district. And the purpose of that zone is to allow those different governmental entities to conduct the business that's necessary to have a functioning community, to have facilities like fire stations, power substations, parks, buildings like the one that we're in now, any of those different things that are functions of government at different levels, local like Spanish Fork all the way up to the federal government. We've created the public facility zone to be applied to properties that serve those functions in lots of different ways. The change that I started to refer to back in August that we made to the code took solid waste transfer stations out of our light industrial zone. So it's no longer allowed use in this zoning district. It wouldn't be allowed on that property today without a zone change. And we made it an allowed use in our public facilities zone. We did that, frankly, with this project in mind, knowing that there was some interest in relocating the transfer station someplace in the community, with the idea that if a transfer station is going to be in the city We only want it to exist if it's operated by something like the solid waste district. We have kind of a similar facility that Spanish Fork City, I think, primarily operates with our compost facility. Today, the proposal is necessary because of that change that we made in August, to where, I'll just repeat it one more time now, a solid waste transfer facility is allowed only in our public facility zone. So with that said, again, just talking about zoning, we allow for a lot of different things in our light industrial zone. And we allow for many of the same things in our public facility zone. Transfer station's one difference. But if you were just to compare those two zoning districts, I think most people would say probably that our public facility zone is more restrictive than our light industrial zone. So without thinking about the solid waste transfer station concept, at least, I think it's pretty easy to say that from a land use perspective, changing the zoning isn't necessarily going to allow for a lot of uses that are going to have more impact on the surrounding area than what the current zoning would permit. But with that said, of course, I mean, the real reason for the discussion is the idea that the district wants to relocate the transfer station to this property. So I kind of to cut through the chase, let's just maybe focus on that. And again, we have representatives of the district here tonight that will speak to the questions that were raised last month. I'm sure they can address any other questions that come up tonight. But just to reiterate what I mentioned last month, from a land use perspective, like I said just a second ago, certainly looking at the zoning, I think it's pretty easy to make a case that changing the zoning from light industrial to public facilities isn't going to inherently have an adverse impact on the area. The idea of having the solid waste transfer facility on this property just as a land use. One of the other changes that we made in August was to specifically address what a solid waste transfer station has to be. Basically, it has to be an enclosed facility. It will have to be different, or would have to be different than the current facility in Springville is. It would have to operate differently. The bar's been raised by way of what it would take to have a solid waste transfer facility that conforms to our zoning ordinance, largely because, again, that enclosure requirement exists. So with that in mind, even if we're talking about a solid waste transfer facility in an area where today we allow for lots of different things, some pretty intense land uses, you might just take a second to think about some of the heavy manufacturing that we have in our light industrial zoning district. I think even that phrase light is kind of a misnomer. We have aluminum extrusion plants and various things like that, pretty heavy industry actually, that's permitted in that zone. It's hard for me to say that a solid waste transfer facility that's built so that it conforms to our zoning code isn't a compatible use with those types of uses. And of course, with that said, there's nothing in this part of the community today. So having that facility built in the very near future, when I say nothing, I mean no, light industrial kind of development in the area. Obviously, it's going to have an impact. The impact would be immediate with it opening, and it likely would help accelerate additional change in that part of the community. So with that said, we certainly understand the reason for concerns about it. We as the city want to make sure that the district gets it right, and that not only they build the facility so that it doesn't have an adverse impact on surrounding properties, but also so that they build ancillary facilities that are needed, so that they do things like improve roads. And on that, we've only very recently really started to talk with the district about different things that they would anticipate doing to make sure that having a facility on this property doesn't have an undue adverse impact. But I know, again, the district's ready to talk about that tonight. That's just, I guess, a little bit of recap from where we were last month. Do you have any questions for me, maybe before I turn it over to the district?
I think we went over it pretty good last time.
I do have, just to make sure I understand the way you're describing this, if I understand correctly, then based on its current zoning as it is today, an owner would have by right the ability to build a facility irregardless of a zone change that could be as intense or more intense than what's being proposed? Is that what you're trying to say to us? That by right, that, they wouldn't need our approval to do that, is that right?
I would characterize it that way, just considering the other types of uses that are allowed in our industrial zone. I think if you looked at traffic, noise, even odor, different things like that, there are a number of different uses that are allowed in our industrial one zone that would be at least as intense and have at least as much of an impact on surrounding properties as the transfer station. And with that said, I'm not trying to play games or downplay concerns that exist with the transfer station. It is a solid waste transfer station that we're talking about with good reason. When neighbors hear about that, I think it does raise red flags, alarm bells go off. I think part of the presentation that we see tonight from the district is intended to help people understand that potentially at least this is a better neighbor than you might inherently expect. Does that answer? Okay. So, if you don't mind, then I'll.
I've got one question, Dave. So our participation in this is a zone change, right?
Yes.
So when it gets to issues like, because I know a big issue is traffic, which is outside of the zone change, how much does that come into our decision-making of the zone change? Or is that some other, what's that, Brad?
Go ahead.
Or is that some other entity in the city that would catch that issue? Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, it does, and you might get different answers to that question from different people, but I think when we talk about changing land use, changing zoning, we should always look at it comprehensively and should consider all of the different impacts that come with those changes. And traffic certainly would be one thing that should be considered. I think that's why we've talked about it since your hearing last month. I think that's why the district's put considerable effort into being able to address that concern tonight. I think it's completely appropriate to worry about that as an impact. I mean, it's just a very real result of the kind of change that we're talking about tonight.
All right, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll go ahead at this time, invite the applicant. Mr. Ficklin, if you'd like to come forward and present to the commission. We charged you with some things to present to us today, and some, based on the concerns that were addressed in last month's public hearing. So hopefully you'll have some conceptual drawings and some ideas that will help alleviate some of those concerns.
Yes, I hope so, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering, because our audience is new tonight, if I might take a few minutes and do a little bit of history of the South Utah Valley Solid Waste District that was actually named by the member cities. And so I'm stuck with that acronym, SUVSWD, every day as well. So,
Just, let me interrupt for just a minute. Is the microphone working okay on his? So I know that mine's pretty loud, or maybe I just talk loud. Probably both, huh?
how about now?
No. I just wanted to read, before we get going, I know that we need to get
Just
this
one moment, I'll
microphone
get
up.
a mic.
I think there's a lot of people wanting to hear. That might be easier right here. Mr. Ficklin, why don't we just do it this way? Just
Here we go. Hold on. It's coming. Does it say it's on channel 70? Okay.
17? Yeah.
Okay. It's a little bit grainy, but okay. So if it's okay with you, Chairman, I'd maybe like to take a few minutes, and I'll do this directed towards you, but I'm really speaking to everyone in the room, so I apologize for having my back to so many people.
If you'd like to, it's okay with me if you want to turn sideways.
Okay, and then we
Go ahead.
can, with
Talk
the
about
maps
what
and
you're
things. Actually. Okay, thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Terry Ficklin. I'm the general manager for South Utah Valley Solid Waste District. We are a special service district that was created by its member cities. The member cities of the district is Provo, Springville, Spanish Fork, Mapleton, Salem, Woodland Hills, and the town of Goshen. So they are that's the makeup of our district. We're about 25 years old. Back about 25 years ago, the creation of the district was formed, and the first transfer station was built at this location right here. This would be our property right here. That facility was, at its time, the way transfer stations had been determined. So our technology that we're using today is about 25 years old. At that time, the commonality of transfer stations is that you would leave what they call an open door system, where the trucks and also people would back up to the doors and they would drop off their trash. This particular transfer station was originally designed to hold approximately 350 to 400 tons of trash per day. Currently, on Mondays and Tuesdays, we're getting close to 1,000 tons per day. We average on Monday close to 1,000, and on Tuesday about between 800 and 900. And those are the days that Provo comes every day. Springville will come almost every day because they have their own vehicles. Because this end of the valley, both Spanish Fork, Salem, and a lot of the other communities use contractors to pick up your curbside trash. Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday are fairly large for us because both Republic and which is Allied, and Waste Management and others concentrate all their efforts on this end of the valley, and then they go north towards the other end of the week. And so that's kind of some history. We recognize the problems that the district has had. I've been with the district now for 4 years, and one of my goals as the general manager was to try to look towards the future and come up with a solution for expansion. Prior to me coming on as general manager, the district had actually purchased another piece of property. This is the I-15. This is where we're currently located. Down here, is it this property? The district had bought this piece of property right here as a future site for a transfer station. It's in the county. When they purchased it, it was with the understanding that they could possibly move to that location with a transfer station. That didn't turn out. They were not able to get permitted on that property. So the district has had that property now for, I think it's been 6 or 7 years. And so one of the things that we've been doing is looking to relocate our transfer station to a new location. And so when this piece of property became available, we looked at it, and we're now in the process of doing what's referred to as a due diligence period, where we do just this. We check with the city as far as availability for zoning. We do tests on the ground. We look at ideas, concept drawings, and other things so that we can present it to, in this case, the city of Spanish Fork, because this property is in the boundaries of Spanish Fork City, one of our member cities. So that's why we're here. Now, there's no, it's no secret that all of your comparisons to a new transfer station are going to be weighed by our current transfer station. And And for that, all I can do is try to kind of educate you, hopefully, and bring you up to what the new technology is. So much of what's happened in 25 years has pushed us towards recycling, reusing, and putting in different directions different parts of your waste stream. We now, back 25 years ago, everything went to the landfill, everything. And now we pull out refrigerators, freezers, things we call white goods are pulled out, tires, household hazardous waste has to be removed. Construction material is separated. And then our recycling. Many of the cities now have recycling programs, and we also are now dealing with this. And all of these are being done at our current location here in Springville. The new technology puts everything in a large structure, more like a warehouse, where you have more room to sort. We've got some pictures here of some examples. Some are small, some are large, but they're all different types. This one here that's in Tacoma, Washington, this is pretty similar in concept. You have one door that everyone goes in. Inside the building, you drop your waste, and then when you're done, you would come out a different door. The advantage of that is it contains the trash, and it allows us to do everything inside of that enclosed structure. It has to have lots of fans, ventilation, filters, and stuff because we're running heavy equipment, loaders and other equipment inside the building. Structurally wise, they run about 40 to 50 feet in height in order to give us enough room for those big trucks to be able to lift up and dump what they have. One of the concepts is that how long does trash stay at a transfer station? Other than the fact that we're closed on Sundays, our hours are from 7 in the morning till 6 at night, 6 days a week. Most of the time, trash, other than the Sunday overnight, is not on our ground or in the building longer than perhaps 1 day, maybe 2, depending on if it's a weekend or not. Because of the amount of trash that we get on any given day, sometimes it comes out of the building and then it has to go back into the building. And by the end of the week, we've had a chance to remove all the trash and hose it down, clean it up, unless it's the winter time, and then prepare for the next week. There's no question that because of tight spaces, however, that we are, it's really hard for us at our current location. Maybe we could look at a few more of these pictures. Is it Chris, are you running that? This is an example of the inside. They use what they call push walls. You would come in on one side and go out the other side. Everything is done here. We currently use a compacting machine for the trash. It was decided to do it that way some 25 years ago by the board members. This particular concept is a drop down. It's just a hole in the ground right there where the trash is just pushed into and the trailers are underneath in a tunnel and the trash just drops in. Our current transfer station has where trailers back up to the unit, and we basically build large bales of trash by compacting them. Very similar to if any of you have a home trash compactor, just visualize that at a very, very, very large scale. And that's what we do. We push the trash in, we compact it, and then we push it onto the trailers. To give you an idea of the purposes of transfer stations, one of our trailers would take the place of anywhere from 3 to 6 garbage trucks. So there's a lot to be said for the environment and the economics, so that the garbage trucks do a very good job as they're collecting up at your home. But the idea with the transfer station is they're very good in short distances. They do a route, they pick it up, and then they bring it to a transfer station. We're able then to sort it, analyze it. We kind of stir it up so we get an even mix. We look for things that we need to pull, metals, tires, televisions, things that residents would put in their trash. At that point, we then load it into the trailers, and then it's transported across to our Bayview landfill facility, which is over at Bayview. which is over by Alberta. It's on the other side of the lake. It's about 35 miles. And so our large semi-trucks, big semi-trailers, haul the trash from the transfer station over to the landfill. So there's a huge amount of cost savings to our communities because garbage trucks don't have to drive all the way to the landfill, or the citizens also don't have to drive all the way to Alberta to the landfill. We're able to bring this close to home. And so that's the purpose. So these are just, they're transportation and they're just hubs where we bring stuff in and it moves out. This is an illustration. I think this one's actually in Phoenix. It's one of the largest in the country. Ours would never be anything to that size. This would handle a large part of the Phoenix area. But in this case, they're using the same philosophy that our current one is, but it's just for the residents. So they have for residential, this is a Saturday picture, people would line up and then they would go in front of a door and back their truck or trailer in and unload their residential waste. All the commercial would be done in the back building. To give you an idea, it'll take between 40 and 80 residents to fill up one of my trailers, where it takes about 3 to 6 of our trash trucks, our commercial trucks that come in for us. So that's kind of the purpose of a transfer station. There's a huge difference in going to a closed facility. This is a good example of one. There's some additional pictures. This is another great one inside. You direct traffic. There's some here locally. We have a picture of one that was just finished in Logan, Utah. This is the Logan, Utah building on the outside. These are the two entrances. This would be the exit for this building. This building is good in concept, but it's too small for our need as far as the amount of tons. This is designed to do approximately 500 tons. And this is the way the inside is designed. This is brand new. It's not even been put into use yet. A lot of cement. You do a lot of pushing. These are lift walls. Trash is lifted in this situation over the wall and they drop into the trailer, which is also in a tunnel. So you drive the trailers on, you take the top off. These are all called soft tops. And then the trash goes in, they compact it in so that we get it to its maximum weight, and then we haul it out to the landfill. This is a side view. This is the tunnel up in Logan. This is a different style. Instead of using a compactor like we're using, this is just called compaction. So you use a front-end loader to lift the trash and drop it in, and if it needs to have more weight, then they would pack it down and add more trash. So that kind of gives a little bit of history. I'd like to do this in a couple of parts because I'm not the engineer. There's a couple of more pictures. This was one that is more into a hillside. It's very common to put them also as a landfill gets filled up and they have to go someplace else because you're required to take care of the landfill forever. It's very common for some communities have then had to build transfer stations and then transfer the trash from there to their next landfill, wherever it might be. So there's just the transportation. As far as the comments, as far as the roads and even for utilities, I'd like to maybe refer, I do have Forsgren Engineering with me tonight, and they might be able to speak more adequately as far as roads.
Why don't we go ahead and have roads come up? And then if you could let us know your name and position so that the recorder can get that.
My name is Bruce Ward. I'm the division manager for Forsgren Associates. We're a consulting engineering firm.
Okay. Did you get that, Jim? Okay.
If you don't mind, you want to pull up the... let's start with the site plan. What he's showing there is the utility layout for Spanish Fork, and you can see down in that corner... Let me borrow that, Terry. You can see down in this corner, this is the jail, the complex, and the animal shelter there. This is where all the utilities lie. The 40 acres is right there. So now let's pull up that site plan. As Terry said, we're in the very early stages of the process. So part of the due diligence and getting it zoned was coming up with a couple of possible site plans. And so I don't want to say that this is the final, and then you can see the size of that building as well as 200,000 square feet. The building will be anything in that range, plus or minus 50,000. So anything from 100 to 2,000 square feet in that range, depending on the different services that the district wants to provide from this site. And so you can see the large asphalt area around it. Again, it probably wouldn't all be asphalt. As you go back to some of those drawings that you saw, the preliminaries, you saw planter areas, green areas, and they route traffic around it. So it's, again, these designs are very preliminary, and the final design hasn't been done and won't be done for potentially maybe more than a year. So, but if you can visualize this, this is 400 South Springville, coming over to 800 West, and then entering the property somewhere along the middle of the property or just off center. And then you'd see this first thing you'd come across is a weigh station, just like you see at the existing transfer station. The purpose for having that clear off the road like that is for queuing area. You saw the number of cars backed up in some of those other pictures that we showed. We want to get all the vehicles off this road and then come to here. And then the commercial would go in one side, the residential would go on another side, and then the compaction and the hauling trucks would enter another. This little structure right here would indicate a administration building where the offices for the staff would be. Inside this building, we would be talking about maintenance sheds. Well, another thing that was talked about is also green waste would be inside of there, and the chipping of the green waste would be inside. And so up in this far corner, this is the jail complex, and that's where the utilities are. So there's a couple of options depending on whose land the utility goes across. So the utilities could come across here and go like shown. They'd go across the frontage of the property and then into the station. They could be on this side of the fence or on that side of the fence. Those things haven't been worked out, but they would be in those general locations. So there's other options. The utilities could cut across in different areas based on the landowners and some of their desires. So that's still flexible, but that's where the utilities would come from. All the utilities of Spanish Fork City, sewer, water, electricity, pressurized irrigation. I don't know if it's out there. But all the utilities for Spanish Fork end right there and would need to be extended. Now, let's talk about this road for just a few minutes. So we've had conversations with Utah County. In fact, today we talked to them, and we've also had conversations with UDOT in discussion about this road. Now, they obviously said, well, turn us in the final design when you're prepared to do that. But in concept, they all agree. We talked to Richard Nielsen and Glenn Tanner from the engineering department from Utah County, and that's what's shown here. Up here you have an existing cross section. And those travel lanes are about 11 and a half feet wide for 22, 24 foot of asphalt. That's existing along here. So edge to edge from fence to fence is right around 42 feet, depending on where you measure it along the right of way or along this road. The ditch and the fence switch places about right here on the property, so it's a little different there. But the plan the question was asked, what would have to be done to this road to make it handle the kind of traffic that we're talking about? And so we went back, Terry provided some traffic numbers. There's about 197 trips. This is based on 2013. About 197 trips per day would come into this transfer station during operation hours. So that's from 7 to 7. That was
tickets.
One in, one out.
Clarify that, what was the answer to that?
That's 197 trips in, it's tickets, and that would be in, and then you'd have the trips out.
So 400 passes on the road then?
So, in order to accommodate that kind of traffic, we would want to put this road right here and expand it to something similar to this right here. You have 3 travel lanes. These could be 12 or 11 feet, but 12 foot is a good number for preliminary. Do 3 travel lanes, and then you could have a couple of feet of shoulder on each side. There's the power line that runs down the east side of the road here, and then the ditch. Now, that would fit in this cross-section, technically. This ditch would probably have to be piped through sections or all of it, and the plan would be to rebuild that road from end to end, so that the vehicles would have a turning lane, they'd be able to get out of each other's way, and be able to keep free-flowing traffic.
And they wouldn't destroy the road.
Yeah.
It needs to be built to a higher standard.
Yeah, we wouldn't just widen the road. We would tear the road out and rebuild the road and make it brand new. UDOT indicated, as far as the number of trips and on this road, that's not really a huge concern. That's the highways are built for much higher capacities than that. But with all the left turns and right turns being made here, we would widen this intersection on both sides. Of course, this side would already be widened. Widen this direction both ways so that you would have acceleration and deceleration lanes as well as left turn lanes. Again, keeping the traffic flow moving, everybody be able to move in and out of there without any problem. Was there other questions that we want to talk about? We've covered the utilities, the preliminary site plan, the road improvements.
Road and improvements, I'd just like to ask, if you're done with your presentation, I have a
Yeah.
couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So, the big thing from me is, from a city planning's perspective, one of our jobs as the commission is planning and zoning, is looking at the future of this area. And if I'm looking at the future of this area,
Pull back to that.
can I go back to
picture.
the other picture, please? From a city planning perspective, this, can you turn on the gray industrial, please?
Turn off utilities, they're gonna be.
The concept of putting a facility out here and then providing an economic opportunities for our city and jobs, et cetera, I think would be advantageous to see access points coming from this direction than this direction. Where's the road at, right here? Oh, there it is, right there. Sorry, I missed. So if coming in from this direction here, I don't know how that's going to improve the city economical from our sector. Meaning that's improving the county road, UDOT road. But if we're looking at future planning of a city and organization and growing the industry in this area, it is no benefit to the city to put an establishment there, in my opinion, and improve a county road. If we're going to invest in a city property here, and we're looking at the future planning, why would we not look at access points from the city perspective?
I can answer that, but I think Chris is probably,
No, I want from a developer standpoint, not a city standpoint. From a city, from a developer, why are you only looking at this access point and not others?
I have to say, I've been called a developer for the first time ever today.
Well, you're representing the developer.
Right. Although we are a government-owned development, so, okay.
Whatever you want to title yourself.
I'm going to say I agree with you. And I think that in the master plan of Spanish Fork, there are other roads planned to make that
There are,
east-west connection.
yeah.
And so I think that's a legitimate question and something that could be talked about during the planning and the design of this property.
And that's no fault of anybody here. I'm just, if we're looking at, I hate this pointer. If we're looking at developing this area, and the big thing that the staff has presented to us is that this is kind of a foundation for future development, because we run the infrastructure, the roads, the power, sewer, et cetera. It's going to open the door for future economic opportunities down the road. that economic opportunity is not going to be as evident improving this road as it would be improving something from here. And maybe that's something we need to readdress with the staff and the city. But that's my 2 cents. It's not the facility itself that bothers me as much as if we are truly planners and if we're truly looking at what are we trying to accomplish in this part of our city in the future, this road, to me, is not relevant.
As a solid waste district, Mr. Chairman, if I might, because our member cities start at Provo, and they include Springville and Spanish Fork and Mapleton, our current location and in this general area of 400 South, if you were to drop, as you would say, a marble on a map as far as the center population to logically put a transfer station from where it was pinpointed 25 years ago to where the new analysis was done is still within a mile of the same location. And so for us, it works well because the impact as far as the number of tickets we do or the number of people that come are coming from Provo and Springville, not just Spanish Fork. And so this does allow a freeway exit and a UDOT road.
So a better
to be
access
able-
point from the overall perspective of the district.
That would be our position, yes. And I think
And
that,
so I think we're at a tug of war here because I see your perspective of a district and access points.
yes,
But from a city perspective and trying to rezone this, we're looking at what's the benefit to the city to allow that to be built there. And really, from the city perspective, is our future.
right.
It
Is
is
this your-
growing our industrial area.
Now, might I ask where the master plan overlay is on this? Because this is just the current lines of the city boundaries.
Well, the master
Does the
plan's-
master plan,
It's going to be similar to this zone right here.
Are you talking about the transportation master plan?
no, just the city's master plan?
The master plan is going to show zoning. It's not going to show details. I'm not trying to figure out what you're trying to get out of it.
If you look at it now, that's a good one, Chris. This is the future of Spanish Fork. When it gets, that's the easiest way to see it there. You can see where we're currently going with future growth of Spanish Fork. All this will eventually become in the master plan concept in Spanish Fork if Spanish Fork follows its current master plan. And so
I
the
agree, but
improvement of
the
that
access will
road.
be, the access will be from, most of the access will be from,
Main Street rather
can I
than.
get another one? From Main Street.
A lot of it would be, and there would be probably futures
We
of
can't,
some
we
industry
can't, we
coming,
can't rely on the access of our future to the county, to the UDOT,
or to the state road.
to the state roads. We want access to our future through our roads, if possible.
I can speak to that.
So our master plan calls for this road to connect and a road through there to connect eventually, and that typically occurs with development, but we are exploring ways to get that done with this development as well, but that takes a fair amount of work and negotiation. So I actually agree with you as well, Brad. I think if we could negotiate a connection across here or from here, it would be much better for the city. And our master plan is such that it will eventually be that way when development occurs, but we are looking for ways to speed it up.
I think if we had the road coming from this direction, half the people in this room would get up and leave.
So that is being looked at, and we're working hard to do that. We would also want to do these improvements as well. I think the more access is in, the better. Spanish Fork typically shies away from condemning accesses, and so a lot of these decisions are dependent on what we can negotiate and work with property owners. And so it's become critical to the district to make a move, find a permanent location where they can consolidate their operations and do things. And so, you know, we looked at this area that we own property, this area that we own property. This is near an airport, a jail. It seems to be out of the way. We felt like this would be, we have to have a transfer station. It's not an option to just not have one. And so this, by a very extensive study, seemed to be the least impactful or obtrusive impact on all the neighboring community. And so we're working hard to do that. And it's our hope to get some connection through here.
This road on the, if I can interrupt for just a minute, just to clarify, this road right here, doesn't it dead end right there? Or you
He's
come
not-
around that, you got the dog
You're
pound
talking
there?
about that road. It dead ends right there. So it comes around and it dead ends right there.
Not a road right there, Brad.
And there's not a road right there. I think you're.
Well, it goes to the
thinking-
back, it goes about right there.
Okay,
isn't
is that some sort of driveway type road or something?
For nevertheless, this improvement here, this distance here, I don't know, you'd have to measure it, but the cost of improving this road, I can't see much different than this distance here.
Yeah, but you.
If there was right-of-way and access points, and you say, you know, we don't want to condemn, but I mean, if there was an agreement with local people and it was able to, I think that that's mutually beneficial to the city for our future, and overall, but I
I-
also know that now we're talking access points, so.
You're absolutely right. In fact, that's what we talked to the county about. We are with the county, both agreed that a road here would be good, completing this would be good, and we have that. We just need to work out the connection from here to here, and that takes negotiation, and so hopefully that can work out. If not, there's still this, and eventually that will, because this is master planned. We already have it on a map that's been adopted by the Plan Commission and City Council, that road will be there as development occurs. So eventually, and I agree with Bruce. I think you run utilities through here, and you get utilities up to this point. Development follows utilities, and roads come with the development. So it could be sooner than later.
Any questions for the applicant before we allow them to sit down? Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I was just going to add, Terry, one thing, and I don't want to speak for you, but the district isn't asking for any favors here. And so your development standards, if they require this road to be done, we do it. If they require a portion of this master plan road to be done, you know, maybe we don't do that initially, but that's in some agreement that over a period of time, when some of the neighbors come in, that money's set aside to do that. So I just want to say that the district isn't asking for Spanish Fork to bend any rules or
Well, I've always felt that Mr. Ficklin wants to do what's right too. I think he wants to do what's right too. I mean, and that's, I guess, me not willing to challenge the process a little bit, so.
I'm a little bit concerned with your queuing road coming in the middle right there. If you go down on a Saturday to your facility down there, you'll have cars and trucks, like you say, backed up a block, almost out to the highway. I don't know why we couldn't take this down, come in maybe right in here and kind of queue it around, and then, so you're queuing in kind of a semi-U. You've got to make sure those cars are off that road right there. Basically, you've got the veterinary hospital right here. You don't want cars sitting out on that road. If we could come in
Absolutely.
down the side and queue down around and then come in and have your weigh station down in here, give you a little bit more room. Those Saturdays can be a nightmare down
So
there.
I think that's part of the reason for a left turn lane here, so it gets the traffic off the passageway.
That will help.
Turn lane,
But
so.
if they want to go down and pull right into that facility, then you're gonna be that.
I'm not sure how this, as far as, check. I'm not sure what the distance is, but your observation is accurate, that during the week, Monday to Friday, in the 4 years that I've worked in the district, we've never been
Use that microphone.
blocked out. You know, we've never had to block. We've never been out on the road. But I know that Saturdays can be busy at certain times of the year, and we'll get close to there. And so I do think it's important, and I don't know what the distance is from there up to the scale house, but I do believe that it either needs to be the same distance or greater than our current is, or absolutely, we redesign the road so that it's a better queuing area. But you definitely need to have that, which is why we did that. And we can even move it closer to the building.
Would it be accurate to say that the current bay, I think there's only 6 bays in the current facility, and this one will be more bays, so you facilitate more cars at a time and be less backed up, or is it be the same amount of bays? you think?
Exactly. I mean, you're talking about a difference of, I don't know the exact square foot. You know, our current operation is like 5,800 square feet. We're talking about between 120 and 200,000 square feet. And so, yeah, you're talking 10 times, 10 or 20 times larger. But a lot of that is because we're going to do everything inside that same structure. We're going to move our green waste, which is composting, inside of this building as well. So the goal here would be to shut down the Provo and the Spanish Fork compost facilities or collection of green waste and selling, and all that would be done at this location as well. And nothing is designed to be outside the structure. Everything is done inside the building. So,
When engineering reviews their plans and their traffic study, we would take a hard look at queuing and make sure it was adequate, not just for now, but projected into the future. So the answer would be it'd be quite a bit longer than the
current.
existing, I think. So.
Yeah, good observation.
Thank you for presenting that to us today. Appreciate it. Mr. Anderson, is there anything that you would like to add from the staff's perspective before I open it for public? No? Okay. At this time, I put out a few ground rules when we got this many people. Usually there's a couple people here, but when we have, almost 100 people here. Got to keep it to a limit, so please come up and state your name and make sure the recorder can hear your name, and then state your concerns, or maybe you're here to tell us how much you love it. I'm just positive, right? So come up and present to us your concerns, and then we will take note of them. And so at this time, I would like to open it for a public hearing. If I could have the first person come to the pulpit.
I'll start.
He sat right in the front row and he was ready.
I'm Jeff Thomas. I'm a landowner that lives on 800 West.
Can we go back to the big picture, please?
Yeah, let's do that.
800 West. Right?
Which was, it's probably
You have
going
a-
to be,
You want to use this fancy thing? You just have to push that button right there.
it's called the 1150 on you guys is right here. Here, I'll point. See that?
There you go. Use that. Push that button there.
See that house right there?
Yep.
That's me.
All right.
We have 20 acres there. I think, my family's probably owned it 60 or 70 years, paid taxes on it. And so, I got concerned about some of the things that's going on and what they're trying to get pushed through, the zone change and stuff like that. So I called that number that's on, the notice that there's going to be a hearing tonight, which is Dave Anderson. Okay. And so I get his voicemail. And then someone calls me back and they said, well, everybody that's lives within 500 feet's been notified and stuff like that. So I call Keith Williams. He said he hadn't been. Gil said he hadn't been notified of this meeting tonight. And then I talked to the business that's just right across the street from me. I went there tonight, and he said that he hadn't, okay? So I go into work this morning. I work for Utah County. And so I go ask Glenn. I says, Glenn, did you know that they core drilled 800 West last Friday? I said, did they have a permit to do that? So he goes over to the filing cabinet, and he looks at the records, and you can't just go on a county road or a state road or Spanish Fork City's road and core the road without getting a permit. And they didn't get a permit to core that road, and they cored it last Friday, okay? And so then I called Richard, and Richard's headed up to Salt Lake to a meeting, and he said he did not know, as of this morning, maybe you guys talked to him this afternoon, but as of this morning, he didn't know that this was going on, that they was trying to put this road down, you know, and it's already been an impact on us people that lives down there and has paid for that. I came home today early, and you know, they've had Main Street closed off so long. Well, someone's came down into my yard, tried to turn a semi around because they don't know that they can go another 100 feet to a turnaround. Well, he's tore out all my pasture fence. And I've got pictures and a case number here that I'd like to present to you guys, and you can keep it, whatever. But I would like you guys to take in consideration of the people that's owned this land for hundreds of years, paid taxes on it, and the impact that it's going to have on us down in this area. And I agree with Brad. They don't need to come in on 800. The amount of traffic that's going to be going down 4,000 to turn on to 800 is going to be, what, 400 or 500 vehicles a day? I think is what you guys said. Well, have you ever tried to go down to Lincoln Beach with all those bike riders? And you're going down quite a ways before you turn off. And I went out today and stepped off that road. And the roadway is 22 feet. And there's not that much shoulder to put that there unless you buy property to widen that road. And my concern is that you guys go zone this PL, that they can come in here and take part of my property, because I would say they're either going to have to cover the ditch or come over onto our property to make the road wider. Well, I don't want to sell it to you. So does that mean you can come in and just take it? I mean, we've paid taxes on it forever, you know? And I agree with Brad, there's a better way to get in there. And it's so far down in your light industrial, why aren't they trying to move it up closer? To me, I don't think it's good for Spanish Fork City or for the people that's down there that it's going to impact.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My name's Paul Hatterley. I own Rocky Mountain Large Animal Clinic that's been referred to. Could we put that preliminary site map back up? Yeah. Just so we could show how we sit there. I differ from Jeff, because if this goes through, I do want you to buy me out. I mean, this will be the final nail in our coffin.
This is your
Yes,
facility
that's
here?
us right there. I share, I'm sure, some of the same concerns as my neighbors. Noise, odor. We run basically a horse clinic, and horses are very sensitive to noise and odor. It triggers their fight or flight response. They start hearing wood chippers go off, getting funky smells. My job gets real dangerous real fast. Traffic's a big concern, obviously, on that road. 400 vehicles, I hate to think of having an animal in a life-threatening situation and waiting behind truck after truck, garbage truck, trying to get in there. And I would have a question for the roads people. You talked about tearing that clear out. During that time, would there be access to my clinic? Absolutely. Okay, that's comforting. I worry about trash in the area. I was pleased to hear that it's a closed facility, but I know that a lot of the trash around a facility like that comes from the vehicles that aren't properly covered, and I don't know how you can control that. So that's going to be a garbage highway right there real quick. So those are all concerns that I have. And then most of all, I guess I'm just a little discouraged in my dealings over the last 15 years. That's how long we've been here in dealing with Spanish Fork City, quite frankly. From the day we moved in, it has seemed like there's been a concerted effort to run us out of town. Initially, they came and we were required to give an easement to the airport. That limited half of our use of our land there right off the top. Then I got a call, I believe, from Mr. Anderson asking if we'd like to be annexed into the city. And I said, absolutely not. I could see no benefit to that in our profession and dealing with the large animals. And he said, well, it's going to happen anyhow, and it did. Being annexed in didn't bring us, we don't get sewer, water, gas, electricity. I paid $13,000 to run the poles that are there from Springville out of my own pocket so I could have power there. Then the next thing they did was they came in and they've rezoned us. I think part of my feeling of how Spanish Fork views us was aired here today when they said, I think Mr. Anderson said, well, there's nothing in that area. Well, heck, I'm in that area, and I don't feel like I'm nothing, you know, and Jeff probably doesn't either. And then I think Mr. Gonzalez mentioned that that road's irrelevant to Spanish Fork. And it is to your plan, I'm sure, and I understand that. But to me, trying to get to my business, that road's not irrelevant. We've already come in. The next thing that happened was we extended the runway. We closed my road. So I've lost access to about 40% of my clients that used to come that way. It's been a tremendous hardship. 40% of my clients now have to find a way around. When we closed that, we had a meeting just like this. There was not a single pro voice for that in favor of it. But it went through, and the impression was that it was a done deal. These meetings, I think, are a legal formality that you guys have to do before you do your deals. But that was a done deal long before we ever had any meetings. And I fear that this is the same thing. We're just having a meeting because we have to, but it's a done deal. So we're going to rezone yet again. This will be our third zone change. I understand the need to bring in businesses for the economy, but it's very hard as an existing business owner who already has a business to be swept aside for potential new businesses down the road. That's hard. You know, we're a locally owned and operated business. We live in Spanish Fork. We pay taxes. We shop in Spanish Fork. Our children and grandchildren go to school in Spanish Fork. You know, we donate to the 4-H, to the high school rodeo teams, to the Boy Scouts, everybody that walks in the door, basically. We donate our time to your fiesta days, unpaid, and to every other event they have over here at the fairgrounds. And yet, in return from the city, we get nothing but pinched, pinched, pinched. We put this dump in now. I'm basically done. I don't know what to do there. So I don't know if I have any recourse at all or any legal rights at all. I've not looked into that, but if this goes forward, I'll be forced to find that out. And if there is any, you know, thing that we can legally do to protect ourselves, we're going to need to do that unless the Waste District wants a veterinary clinic. Because I don't see how we can stay there. We're surrounded by a closed road and a runway, now a dump, an airspace over us. Just put a parking garage beneath me and, you know, we're done. So I don't know what we can do here. And it's discouraging to have been in these meetings over the airport road and then just find out, well, it was a done deal. And so I guess air the fact that you're putting a locally owned and operated business out of business. We hire local kids. We are Spanish Fork. Thanks.
So I'm Shelley Hickman, and we own the property just on the other side of the proposed dump. So we're the next door neighbor. The vet clinic is on the one side and we're on the other side.
Huh?
No.
To the north.
We're in the county.
To the north.
To the north, that is the north, right?
North is up.
Got it,
I think she's saying right there.
got it.
Stop up the road.
North of the dump, not the north of the animal clinic, sorry.
Right.
little
Sorry
slow.
about that. I'm not good with maps. And I'm hoping I don't get emotional, so I wrote a few notes down. When I asked my son in Texas what could be the very worst thing that could go in next to our property. He said a dump. And I realized that things have changed. I mean, from when I was a little girl going to the Spanish Fork dump with my dad, you know, things have certainly changed in the last 50 years. But when we were going to our field on Monday night, and I looked over at the solid waste facility, and the doors were open, and the trash was clear to the ceiling, and trash was spewing out all over, I thought, it's time to get serious about this. And I had heard that Springville wants the facility out of their city. So I went home and I started looking at minutes from Springville. And I don't know if you want copies or not.
Please.
And I'll just read them for everyone that's here. Mayor Clyde recounted the solid waste district was put in 22 years ago and was designed for smaller loads. When they went in, they were required to keep the garbage picked up around the property. Council member Sorensen stated that they may need to increase charges so that they can improve. Mayor Clyde stated they need to budget over the last 22 years and to keep improving the facility and the equipment. And now they need funds to improve, but they're not taking care of the current site. So the next day when I went down to our fields, we go down there pretty much every day. We have a horse we're working with down there. I went to the site, and I know that you said this is going to be different. And I hope, is this legal to show pictures? So I took some pictures of the site. And I think the pictures speak for themselves. I know we've outgrown the facility, but I don't know why the trash still can't be cleaned up around the site. That, just takes someone picking it up. Then I thought of all of our memories and all of our pictures and all of our fun times down at our property, and I compared them. So, this is from the love side looking in. So these are the neighbors looking in. Okay, so this is our property. This little boy, he was building a hut on the ditch, and this is our property line, and this would be the facility there. So to me, that's beautiful right now. This is the site in the winter where we take the kids down and we call it, a horse-driven sleigh, and they ride the sleighs in our field. And our kids learn how to ride horses there. I learned how to ride a horse there. My dad bought that property when I was a little girl. He passed away when he was 32 years old. Those are my memories of my dad. So when you say there's nothing down there, there is something down there. These are our kids learning to ride. This is my 2-year-old granddaughter on a horse out in front of our barn. When you say horses are spooked, they're sensitive, how am I going to be able to let my 2-year-old granddaughter ride a horse with all that traffic? This is her picking wildflowers for her mom, sunflowers. On the road where you're going to put all of those 400 dump trucks, diesels, garbage trucks. If you could see the smile on this little boy's face, it says it all. These are our memories. This is our property. We want to keep making those memories. We realize that improvements are coming. They're coming from Springville. There's housing developments. There's the light industrial. That's fine. We can still use our property for what we intend. It's not a game changer for us. This facility is a game changer. It is a game changer. You come down a road, you're going to have to take our property. Are you going to cover our ditch where we water our horses? are we gonna be able to get in and out of our property? We're Spanish Fork City residents too. We live in Spanish Fork all of our lives, all of our family. This facility isn't just for Spanish Fork. It's for Provo, for Springfield, for, was it Woodland Hills, Goshen? And you say, we don't want to impose on anyone. You're imposing. It's imposing on us. We're county residents. That road comes in, that garbage, no matter how it's cleaned up, it's, like I said, it's coming out of the trucks. It is a game changer. And I just want to ask Mr. Pickman, would you take our property in for the road?
Sorry, that's not my decision.
Somebody would though, right? I mean, to expand that road, there's no other option.
It's my understanding that the right of way already exists, but I'm not the engineer.
So anyway, I just thought pictures speak 1,000 words, and thank you for indulging me, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
I'm Gilmer Nielsen from Provo.
Sorry, can you restate your name?
Gilmer Nielsen, Gilmer Nielsen.
Okay, thank you.
My concern is not the dump itself, but the access on the road. We already have Mr. Hadley for the Rocky Mountain Clinic, and then up the line a little ways, there's Geico, that is a drywall business that is on the road. During the construction and even after, the traffic is gonna really limit them. They are in and out a lot, because they're out with their trucks, hauling their material out and back in. My place is right up on the corner of 8th and the highway up there. And the Geico is just right next, south of me, and then the Rocky Mountain, you know where that is. But those guys have a lot of traffic. And with all those trucks coming back and forth down that road, that looks like a problem for those businesses. And about the future businesses that may want to establish on our property or the other properties down along there, that's going to be a concern for them too, of the access, you know, around the trucks as they're coming through. So I don't see anything wrong with putting the transfer station down there, but I'd like to see them either put the road down on 700 South, or else go down like you was talking about, down the other way. If that was worked into the proposal, then I'd have no objection. Thank you.
Where's 700 South?
I think he's just guessing since this is for.
It's one where the county jail and it dead ends.
That one we talked about.
I think he
One
meant
behind, the
3,000.
one behind.
They could put a road through there if they're gonna rebuild the road anyway. They don't exist right now, where 700 South would be.
I think he probably meant right here or here.
Oh, my name is Carl Blunk, and I live right there between the highway and 77, under the Y. That's my house right there. Right there's Roger. Can I just ask a question? What does the word due diligence mean? I don't understand that. Can you help me to understand that before I talk?
Due diligence, I don't know the definition but I can speak from what I understand it to be. It's you taking the necessary time and effort to investigate and research and provide the information necessary for us to make decisions.
Oh, so it doesn't have anything to do with anybody in the area to be notified or anything?
Sure,
It does?
sure.
I don't know if any of you have horses or not, but if you have horses in the last month or so, you may have had the opportunity to go and see Dr. Hatterley, which is a good neighbor of ours down there. But if you didn't, you probably hadn't gone down that road. I don't have any horses, and I live right there, and I have no reason to come down that road. And I don't know where you guys posted this information or who posted this information, but you know how I found out about this? I did get a call from a neighbor that kind of hinted me to it, but do you know how I found out about this was going on? Let me see that thing again. Last, it's either Thursday or Friday, I had 3 trucks pull up in my driveway. Well, actually, only one got in the driveway, and the other 2 were out there. This was a whole crew of 6 or 8 guys that wanted to dig. Nobody has said anything about this tonight, and I don't know why, but they wanted to dig test wells in my property going along my fence line there, because from them and there, I don't know who hired them, but they told me that they were going to put a road down through there, down to the facility. Nobody said anything about that tonight, but that was the whole crew was there to do that. And I said, you know what? Nobody has said a word to me about this. I'm not going to let you go in there and dig holes on my property. I mean, if you're going to condemn it, steal it, whatever, I don't know how you're going to get it, but nobody's even asked. And I would think that Spanish Fork City doesn't want to have that kind of impression made of them, that they don't care, that they're just going to do things. So, but nobody has said anything about that road tonight. That was, and I don't know where that came from. I don't know why a crew showed up there to do that, but they wanted to go all the way down my fence line, all the way down through Gill's property and the Hickman's property, and take a road down through there. Okay, nothing was said about that tonight. I don't know if that's just undercover or what's happening there. And I'd like to just make a couple of clarifications. The numbers they talked about tonight were from 2013. This is 2014, and it's going to increase. So they were saying 400 a day. That's 2,400 a week. But that was a year ago, and I don't know when that was. That could have been in January. I mean, I don't know when they took those figures, but that's going to increase monumentally. He said the facility is going to be 10 times the size. That might be 10 times the amount of traffic going down there. So that's a tremendous amount. This road, Highway 77, is a terrible road. It's not very wide, and I don't know if you know, but people go down there. The speed limit is 50 miles an hour, and I don't know if you're going to plan on putting a stoplight in there or what you're going to do, but it's 50 miles an hour. Every time I pull in my driveway, I have to go onto the oncoming traffic lane because people are behind me going to run me over so that I can slow down enough to get into my driveway. We have had 2 residents from our area killed on that road. That road would have to be changed immensely to be able to have that happen there. I'm concerned that nobody, I don't know, maybe it's my duty as a citizen to monitor all your meetings or something, but I think there should be a little more due diligence in notifying people in the area of what's going on. I'm leaving the country in another week for a year and a half. When I get back, there may be a road through my property. I don't know. So I want it on record that I'm here, that I don't, you know.
Uh-oh, he's pointing at me.
Tanner, you're the only, brother, Mr. Tanner, you're the only one I know.
Uh-oh.
You have a business. How would you like, what would it be like, would you put your business by a, what do you call it, a Utah Valley South Traffic? No, you don't call it that. You call it a dump. Would you put your business by a dump? You guys want this area to grow. You want all these businesses to come in here, and they're going to say, yeah, we're going down there right there by the dump. I don't think you're going to want that. I just think that there's got to be someplace closer to the freeway to make that happen. And I look at those numbers of the amount of people that are coming here. Gosh, it would seem like it would be closer up towards Provo area because that's the biggest part of that. If you drop your marble just a little ways up there, I don't know. But I just have those concerns, and I just appreciate the time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to limit it to 3 more. Okay, so we can't be here all night, so 3 more.
My name's Brent Sumption. I'm the property manager for the Clyde Companies. We own the 80 acres immediately to the east, and our property fronts on 4 South.
Right here. Point to that.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, I think so.
It's right next to the 7.
I think you're talking about this property right
Yeah,
here.
this is our property right here. We're concerned about the transfer site being there. We feel that it's gonna devalue the property that we have. Just wanna go on record that we oppose the transfer site being there. And feel like that, better site could be found somewhere else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
My name is Eldon Neves, Eldon A. Neves. I live in 2373 West, 4000 South in Palmyra, and appreciate the chance to be here. I
Appreciate you coming.
had some of the similar concerns I know on the noticing. I'm on the Utah County Planning Commission, Vice Chairman, and I know the noticing is always an issue because that road is not traveled by anybody but those who go down there for the vet clinic. And that's not too many. And everybody else finds out by some kind of word of mouth. And the only reason we're here today is because we told people about it, Other than that, you would have probably just a few people here also. Well, and now I don't know for sure. Could you tell me, Brad, when the county or when the mayor and when they're going to see this particular item?
They won't see it until it passes this body right here, so
Will that be just a week or two, or how long will that be after?
it could be depending on the schedule, but if we were to approve it tonight or deny it, it could go to them, because we are a recommending body, they're an approving body.
Now, will that be a week or two, or a month? Do they meet weekly, or when do they meet?
They meet once a month,
Okay.
and they meet on the, twice? But only
October
twice.
7th is going to be the next city council meeting.
Okay, so we need to watch that. Can you make sure that some of us know if that's going to be on that agenda so that we can be here?
The staff is listening.
Maybe we can talk about that after you're done, before anybody leaves, so.
Yep.
But we'd like to know so we can be here because there's no one except the property owner who is happy about this issue here. There's not anybody here that's happy about it.
Let me interrupt for just a second. Is anybody here that has not had a chance to sign the roster tonight?
There's a lot out here.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. It's a good time to ask.
One of the things that I wonder about is the fact that Terry and I are good friends. I have no problems with Mr. Ficklin. He's a good guy. And as everybody has said, this is where we live. I have 3 homes here and a business here and so forth. And I'm Spanish Fork. But I just really worry about how Palmyra is being treated. We're treated like second-class citizens. The particular facility out there that the dump people wanted to move their facility out 6 years ago. That's now been bought by Craig Sumption, and he's farming it. And the assumption was that they could never farm a piece of ground like that because they couldn't afford it. They can. This particular ground that belongs to Gerald Swenson that you're looking at, that can be farmed. If you just simply say, no, we're not going to put that in there. That farming now it's a viable business. You can make money at it. So don't put the dump there. One of the concerns I have is the fact that I know that right now the transfer facility owners have enough ground where they are to build where they are. To do exactly what they're talking about, they can build where they are. But for some reason, Springville City and the Loves people, those people that are around there, don't believe that that facility can be made sufficiently clean to be a good neighbor. When I read the minutes, it said we're going to be good neighbors. Well, I don't believe that those people feel like this, they're going to be good neighbors, or they wouldn't have any problems with them being there. Right now, I believe all they have to do is just simply rebuild their site where they are. And they would be just as fine, and it would be just as viable as what they're talking about by moving them. Right now in the whole county, in the county of Utah, we've lost everything. Lehi's gone. Everything's gone but just a little strip. If you go on the west side of the freeway, maybe to Provo or to Payson, and then to Westmount. Everything else is being asphalted and is being turned into houses and development. And that's what I'm fighting. We're fighting on the county is somehow let's keep this agriculture. Palmyra is really, you've got people that have been there for hundreds of years, and they would like to keep that. They don't want to have, they're not just a piece of stupid ground that the city looks at to develop. That's not what we are. We're agricultural people who have families there, and we're raising people, we're raising kids. This is an agriculture community. And if you look on your extended, what do you call it, the zone, what you intend to do is create an industrial site way out to where I live, which is 23, 20, anyway. That's going to be zoned industrial sooner or later if things continue like they are, and that's not what we want. Let's somehow figure out a way to keep just a little bit of agriculture in Spanish Fork, which touts itself as the agricultural center of Utah County. Pretty soon, we're going to have to go to San Pete to get a picture in order to put it on our promotional. That's what it amounts to. We're going to have to go there and put it on our rodeo program because it's going to be gone here. And that's honestly the way it's heading. I think that what you have, light industrial, needs to be somehow kept in agriculture. And Terry and I are good friends, but he's not going down the right road here on this. Thank you.
My name's Cheryl Stewart. I'm a lifelong resident of Palmyra.
Hello, sir.
I don't feel the same way as Eldon does about Spanish Fork. Seems like the only time we're involved with you guys when you want something taken from us. The airport closure, or the road closure from the airport had a big impact on the residents of Palmyra. Huge. We were made promises that we would get a new road. It didn't happen. Then we were made promises that we would get some corners improved. They put a Band-Aid on it. I was personally involved in that. And my biggest concern is, Terry, I don't know if you were involved in this, but Eldon and I, we've been in all these meetings, and that road is not safe for this kind of a deal, 4,000 South. The county commission pounded it down and said there is no way that you're gonna ever access that other property until UDOT improves that road with all the bicyclists, school buses, all the other different kind of traffic there. If that goes through, we're gonna see more people than just the two that have already been killed. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public meeting tonight. I want to say thank you to the public for coming and participating in this event. I'd like to summarize a few things. I didn't capture all the notes, but I do want to capture a few of the things that I think are concerns from the citizens. First and foremost, I want to address that notification. Many of you saying the way we're notifying, it is a challenge. Okay? I don't know exactly the rules, and maybe Dave can speak to exactly the rules here in a minute, but the way we communicate and get the public hearing out is tough. Give you an example we ran into in the past, and I don't know if it falls into some of these categories, but a lot of it goes off for county records. So sometimes we have people who own property that live in California, but somebody else actually occupies the location. So we go by the county records on some areas. So sometimes we have some hit and misses there. It is put on Channel 17. I understand that a lot of this group doesn't have Channel 17, so there's some other challenges. Some of the challenges we have is because the 2014 newsprint is not as prevalent as it used to be. We used to get the newsprint out, so sometimes those challenges are as well. We do have city web pages that are put out there. Some people don't check city web pages. They are gone to P.O. boxes and mailboxes, et cetera, at the addresses of areas. It is a challenge. I can assure you that I don't have firsthand knowledge of it because I don't send no notices out myself. But I do work closely with the staff, and I don't think there's any one person that's trying to do things behind anybody's back or not notify the citizens. It is a challenge, okay? Openly admit to you that it is a challenge. Are there areas of opportunity? Probably there is in communication and life in general. I've worked with a corporation that communication is a challenge across the board in many different aspects. So I will take note that whenever we have something on our agenda, I will promise you this, is that I will ask the staff, have we properly communicated? And I'll tell you that I will make an effort to make sure, and I know the staff is here, they've heard your comments, we'll do our best to communicate, but I just openly admit it is a challenge, and we recognize that.
Would it help if we all put our address on that sign-in sheet, that we all want to be notified?
It wouldn't be hurt for this type of, yeah, yeah.
Something that might be simpler than all of you guys writing it down, is just sending me an email, and when this comes up, I'll just do one mass email to everybody for that. If you just go to the Spanish Fork website at Community Development, then you can contact us and I'll get that out to you guys. That might be a little simpler.
So what's your actual email? Do you have an email address you can
Yeah,
send us?
so the email address, if you're ready, it's kbrenneman, KBRENNEMAN @SpanishFork.org. And if you guys want, I can give that to you afterwards too.
Did you clear some space in your inbox? Because I think you're going to
Yeah.
get a few.
I'm prepared for
The
this,
floodgates.
but I think it'll be a more efficient way to get it out.
I also want to, we've talked about traffic is huge. I understand the concern, anything from safety to the width of the roads to the impact on animal, livestock, kids. There's been accidents in the past with that has taken members of our community. I want you to know that also that legally we can't deny things if traffic studies are authorized for the numbers. We all know that sometimes numbers don't always the truth, okay? Let's just be honest. But if a person, an applicant applies to do something and the road sustains the numbers, we legally can't deny it. Okay, so I want you to be aware that I state that properly. I don't want to misspeak that, but as far as when the applicant does, it goes by the engineers, UDOT, and if the UDOT approves it, then, you know, it's hard for us. I don't say we can't, but it's hard for us to deny something if it's approved by the engineers. Is that an accurate statement?
We advise the commission and council that base your recommendations and decisions on objective science when it's available. And you're right, I appreciate what you mentioned, that particular traffic, sometimes there's more than one way to look at it. So you can question maybe the science that's involved, but we try to be objective.
It's tough. We're going to take that into consideration, though. I'm hearing you is what I'm saying, okay? I want to address, I don't know, I didn't write down names by some of the comments, but in our general plan, we do at Spanish Fork, I can look, I don't remember your name, I remember the gentleman here, but we do, in our general plan, have set aside a certain percentage of agriculture that we plan to maintain in the city. It's in our general plan, and we try to work that out. So we do have one of the largest amounts of agriculture of any city in this county. So we do have access to that, but I do appreciate your comments that no, we don't want to go take pictures in San Pete County. Access roads with UDOT, county, the amount of passes are all considered. I appreciate the comments about due diligence. Do I know verbatim exactly what Webster's definition of due diligence is? No, I couldn't recite that. But we are going to take the time to listen, research, investigate, and so that we can make decisions that we feel are best. I do have one more question for Mr. Ficklin. I've heard lots of rumors, but I'd like to, what is the status of the old location, if the new location? If you are looking at a new site, take this one out of the picture, just a new site in general, why is the old site not capable of being torn down and rebuilt?
Spanish Fork City, Springville City has already indicated to us that they want that land for, it's zoned, we're there with a conditional use permit, and so they would not extend a new conditional use permit because they want to use that land for other purposes.
But they still want to be part of the district, right?
They are.
So
All
Mr.
right,
Ficklin,
we need a-
can I ask a question of him as well as a follow-up? So if you were to build a new facility in the existing spot, it would require a revised CUP? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I have lots of notes. I really just want to say thank you. I don't know, there's not one person on this board that has anything. I know these men and women, they're wanting to make decisions that are right. And the comments and the emotion and the feelings and the history and the heritage are all important. I don't want, regardless if some of you picked apart some words that maybe I used wrongly or Dave used wrongly, I don't think any of those words were meant wrongly, okay, in our description. So I want you to know that. So with that said, let's turn the time back to the commission to ask questions of staff, the applicants. Anybody have clarifying questions they'd like to ask?
I've got one, Chairman. So the district bought some ground years ago in the county with the intention of moving there. And what again is the reason the county will not let you use that for that purpose?
It was before my time as general manager, but it's my knowledge that it had to do with a challenge on Greenbelt. Was that one of the challenges? Essentially. And so the commissioners changed their position and wanted to leave it in Greenbelt and did not permit at that time for the district to build a transfer station there.
So how recently has that been investigated?
Why are they building in that, where they're building? What's the difference?
Can I answer that?
If you approach the microphone. I know there's a lot of emotion, but please no outbursts, okay?
Yeah, Eldon Neves. they had, the county commissioners rezoned it, but no one was there because no one knew anything about it. And so we came back, did a major meeting, and a couple of hundred, 200 or 300 people came there, and they realized that, well, maybe we have a different issue. Then they found out that it was an agricultural protection zone, and then they attempted to pull that out. However, they attempted to pull it out from a gentleman who was not part of the organization. There were things going on there that should not have been going on. Then just recently, I think at that point they decided the community doesn't want this. It's not going to be something that would be of any value to try to fight. The zone was changed so they couldn't do that. And then just recently, Craig Sumption bought it, so the land no longer belongs to the folks there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions among the commission?
Mr. Ficklin, when does how much time do you have allocated to Springville City? Where
Can we
you're
get
at?
Mr. Ficklin a microphone? Or,
What's the timetable for this construction and you having to relocate?
There's nothing. Our governing body has not voted on any time frame yet. The purpose of the due diligence period is for us to analyze certain properties, which is what we're doing here. That would have to be determined down the road. I mean, we're looking at, I'd estimate 2 to 3 years approximately for construction, and for all of the, maybe a couple of years. That would be best case. There is not a order to vacate by Springville City. There's been a decision of the governing body that it's time for us to relocate the transfer station, and so we're working towards their goals.
thank you. All right, so I want to reiterate our position as a commission tonight. We have a proposal in front of us to rezone this piece of property area from Industrial 1 to public facility. I know there's a lot of emotion around the South Valley Solid Waste District being moved, and ultimately that would be a tenant to be interested in that, but this is not a decision about waste management. This is really a decision whether or not we are rezoning. So I want to just make sure that any motions that are made, it's about rezoning. I also want to just reiterate our options tonight. We have the ability as a recommending body to approve and send to the city council for a vote. We can send to the city council without our recommendation, or we can ask for a continuance again if we want to further look at other options for roads, and if somebody feels they want to investigate more with the staff on general plans with industrial or whatever you might be. So if you feel you need more time and research, then we can continue. You can move on without a vote, or a vote, yes, but without a recommendation or a recommendation.
But doesn't the rezoning effectively approve the station?
If it meets some of the requirements, yes. So it would not prevent the building, the structure from being built, but it could, the roads and the infrastructure are still something that would have to be part of the plat approval. So yes, that would still come through us.
When you say if you rezone it effectively, it then approves the dump station. That doesn't mean necessity. If you come out after all the bullshit, that's what it means.
Go ahead, Dave.
Responding to the genuine part of the question there, it is a permitted use in the public facility zone, so it's allowed. If you change the zoning, it would be allowed. As you mentioned, you would have to have a site plan prepared that conforms to all of the city's requirements. But frankly, that should be pretty easy. So again, it would be allowed.
Mr. Anderson, can I ask a question? 2 months ago, when we made the change to the public facility zone to, in essence, shift this type of use from industrial to that public facility zone, has really is what precipitated this. 2 months ago, in essence, had we not done that, the waste district could have come to the city, made an application, and had this facility approved with or without a zone change. Is that correct? I mean, we've kind of created that process.
That's not correct. I'm glad
Okay.
you're asking that.
Okay.
Jason asked me the same question.
Okay.
So to give me a chance to be clear from what I mentioned earlier, transfer stations were permitted uses in our industrial 3 zone before, not the industrial 1. But we did take it out of that zone. So now the only zone that they are an allowed use in is our public facility zone.
And how does an industrial 3 zone compare to an industrial 1 zone in terms of intensity of use?
For us, it's simply our, I mean, you could say the most intense zoning district that we have. Frankly, we don't really use it much. If you look at our zoning map, you'll see that the majority of the property that we have that has an industrial designation is that shade of gray that we were looking at earlier, that industrial 1 designation.
Any other questions from the commission?
I'm just wondering, so you said there's other properties that you are considering, or have you narrowed it down to this being probably the prime location?
Our governing body has narrowed it down to this location, and so we're now going through the steps on this location. So.
Any motions from the commission? We've heard 2 hours of debate, and we either need to move on or sustain or approve or deny, or I don't know that we're going to make any more questions. You have a question?
Oh, I just wondered if somebody wanted to ask, I mean, the current facility hasn't been maintained and upkept according to the ordinance for the city. What's going to guarantee that the new site will be? And is that a concern for the city? And will the city step in and maintain it if it is not?
It is a concern. It's being addressed in the DRC and their plans and their approvals in that process. One of the things the city did address was the closed facility versus the open facility. Are they currently managing it? I love these pictures. I don't remember the lady that came up here. Sir Shed.
But
So,
I mean,
oh,
it's not that hard
thank
to
you.
pick up the trash around that. I'm just wondering, is that going to be an issue with the new facility?
We have the same concern, and it's been addressed, and they have committed that it won't be. So what?
Is that a verbal contract or is that written?
I mean, I don't know how we can put in a contract. You will have somebody out there picking up trash every day. I mean,
Yes,
so.
because it's, you know, is it going to happen? I mean, that was probably a verbal commitment with Springville, and I'm just wondering if it's not happening.
I want to address, I want to not dodge the question. Yes, it's a concern. Yes, it's been addressed. Yes, it will be monitored. Okay? So, how it's going to be policed and monitored, is there going to be a policeman out there? So, I can tell you that there's so many things in the city about the stuff like that. It's tough. I mean, we have ordinances that people can't have abandoned cars in their front yard. We still do. Okay. So, but for a neighbor that has a house next to him with an abandoned car that looks like a wreck, it's an eyesore to them too. So similar in that regard. I agree. Any other comments from the commission? Okay. Well, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion because I think we're a lot of stalemates here. So, make it fast. It's a closed meeting, sir.
I understand that, but the numbers on the traffic currently going into the facility are 400 a day. He's talking about merging 3 facilities. I think the traffic numbers have been completely misrepresented as far as UDOT's concern is, and that 800 west for Dr. Hatterley you're talking about merging 3 more facilities. We're talking about 1 to 250,000 square feet. The business that can be done in that facility is going to blow up. They're 5,600 square feet currently. The numbers need to be reworked.
Thank you. I was make a motion that this moves to city council without a recommendation for approval. I will make my out a recommendation for approval based on maintaining agriculture. I don't think that it's the best for the city in the planning with the current configuration. I think if we are looking at industrial, there's other areas that would make sense for these public facilities. And I feel that if it is the right location, it's not the right time. I think that there could be some infrastructure that could be better supported. So in the current configuration and the current proposal, I would like to move it to City Council without a recommendation for approval.
I will second that motion.
We will start with a roll call vote with a first and a second, starting with Mr. Tanner on the left.
I agree with not recommending this.
Aye.
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 Again, thank you for your comments. The recommendation will go to the City Council. The notification for City Council will be posted in a variety of ways. You know about it October 7th. Okay? I recognize that it's a struggle. So we've given you an email to send it to. We will send things out via the normal ways, but we've already told you that potentially it'll be on the agenda for October 7th.
Mr. Chairman, on that,
Yeah.
it will not be on the agenda on the 7th.
I'm wrong again.
You said potentially. Let me just look at calendars here. The earliest that it could be on the council's agenda would be the 21st. My guess is that it will either be on their agenda on the 21st or the first Tuesday in November, which I believe is the 4th. So either the 21st of October or the 4th of November. The council agendas are online. They're posted the Friday before every meeting, so.
Since that's right on the Dearborn
Get out of here. All right, those that want to stay, I'm going to go ahead and move on. If you could please exit quietly as we continue the meeting. We will move on with the next item of business. Yes.
Keep them. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Here, keep these two. You might, for the city council. Yes. I'm going to go ahead and move forward, please, if we can get everybody to hold it down. I guess that's a lost cause. So I'm going to go ahead and try to go through this. Our next applicant and item on the agenda is the Trailside subdivision. Can you hear okay out there? Good still? Trailside subdivision. The applicant is Atlas Engineering. If I could have there he goes. I was going to say Mr. Anderson, he left. If I could have Mr. Anderson go ahead and let the commission know what we need to know about.
Well, we've got a couple of challenges here we need to talk through. For some of you that have been on the commission for a little while, you'll remember seeing a project here a year or two ago Get to the best image.
This is the 3 homes along the trail wall?
Yeah, exactly. So the really easy way to describe what's proposed now is the same kind of concept with really the same improvements, but instead of there being 2 new homes, actually the other proposal involved tearing the existing home down and building 3 new homes. So instead of ending up with 3 homes like what was proposed before, all of them new, this proposal involves keeping the existing structure, having it be renovated, and building 1 new home on the subject property.
I don't
So,
see that it's, maybe I'm simplifying it too much, but it just seems like we've already approved 3. Why would 1 more not be an issue? I mean, I understand we gotta go through the process again, but if I remember right, we had concerns with fire lanes, we had concerns with access. One of the biggest conversations was fencing and domestic, or not domestic, excuse me, the cosmetic look along the trail side. As long as they continue to look at the cosmetic and safety of the trail, and we still maintain, the DRC's already approved it, that means it's already been addressed through the fire and safety. Is there anything that I'm overlooking, or is it that simple?
frankly, I think it's that simple. The couple of things that I think we'd like your thoughts on, fencing and then maybe aesthetics, and that's up to you. So really, like you said, Mr. Chairman, they're some of the same issues that we talked about before. You might remember that one concern that was expressed when we looked at this project the first time, and just to orient the commissioners that weren't around with that first go through, this is the trail that connects first south down kind of ultimately with the sports park or Volunteer Drive. It's a heavily used section of trail for us. With the driveway coming in here, there was some concern expressed about people perhaps taking a vehicle from this driveway and getting on the trail, which hopefully that sounds a little bit bizarre. We see things like that happen occasionally still. But as we talked about, so I guess to finish how we handled that with the first approval. So the approval that was granted before for this development required the developer to place, I think we just simply said sizable boulders, rocks 2 or 3 feet in diameter at a certain spacing between the trail and the curb on that driveway so that you physically couldn't take a vehicle through there. As we thought about that in the DRC meeting, I guess we questioned as to whether or not that's really necessary. And we've recommended that it's probably better to approve the project simply with a fence there between the trail and the driveway. Really not to keep people off the trail or even to try to control vehicles, but more as just a demarcation of the property line so that the public property's clearly identifiable, the private property likewise on the other side's clearly identifiable. And that's the recommendation that we bring, is that the applicant be required to install something that's open by way of just a 2, maybe a 3 rail fence. Personally, I think a 2 rail fence, not so much to contain anything as to demarcate the property line. That's our thought. We'd love to get your thoughts on that. Fencing also along the southern boundary of the project.
Was that vinyl on that southern and western?
I'll try to pull up an image here in a second so we can take a look at it. And
It says vinyl on the.
yeah, that's what's noted on the plans.
There was a discussion too, because of, I can't remember if it's this one or this one, with the adjacent houses here, there was a height requirement we had on the previous approval.
We did, and I think that concern's been addressed at least in part because the structure, as you can see in the staff report with the images that we included, it's going to basically be a Rambler 1-story building that would be built on lot 2. So I feel like, Brad, that has kind of addressed that or kind of made it a non-issue. But one of the things that we've tried to be particular about as we've looked at infill overlay projects is the architecture of structures. It was a challenge the first time we had that discussion about this property. So that concept, at least, is that you want to require a certain type of design that looks like it belongs in the neighborhood. Something that has some same or similar design characteristics as what you have on surrounding homes. With this particular part of the city, we've got a lot of different things in close proximity. So they could take clues from some of those different things and to really come up with something that clearly matches. I don't see how you can do that. I think the applicants put together a plan that wouldn't look out of place. Not that that's necessarily what we're shooting for, but probably in this case, at least in my view, that's about as good as you could do. And also I'd mentioned, just relative to the infill overlay, another thing that we're particular about is simply the concept that when developers ask for more, we require more. And they're far from the maximum density that would be allowed on the property by just requesting the ability to build one more unit. And typically with that, we don't really want to put it this way, but just to be quick, we don't want to pile on and demand a lot of things when people aren't approaching that upper end of the density range. That's one way that we try to incent people to do certain things, is to dangle an additional dwelling unit or two out in front of somebody and say, if you do X, then maybe you can get more density. But we have recommended that the project be approved, which would involve approving a zone change for the infill overlay and a preliminary plat, so that extra lot, that additional lot there, could be developed.
Dave, I'm not a master at looking at these like some of my counterparts
Yeah,
here
it's-
in the staff, but is there a slope between the driveway and this for safety? I'm just wondering, rolling onto the, yeah, you have a fence here we're discussing, but
It shows 2% on the driveway.
Yeah, I think
There,
there's-
going towards the east. So it's a cross slope towards the fence.
this thing right here.
No, it's,
Oh, I see it right there.
right there. So
Good.
everything's sloping.
That should be
that
good then,
direction.
too.
The
I just didn't know
lot,
the elevation there, if we had something really angled.
2%
I
is not much.
think we get a pretty good look at it just from
Is
a
the
street
applicant
view.
here? One of you?
Yeah, I'm Monty Griffiths. That lot actually is lower than the trail,
Okay,
so it will slope, and there's no way something to grow up on that trail.
okay, thank you.
Dave, I've got two questions, if I can quickly ask those. One is I guess I'm confused. Didn't we already approve a zone change? And then it would just be a preliminary plat that teach me here.
The infill overlay runs with a project.
I see.
So when they change the project, even typically, we look at a reduction in density as being very benign. When developers want to do that, we're usually pretty
Right. Okay.
pretty eager to accommodate them. But still, that's why it's back before you as an infill overlay project.
Okay, that makes
To get
sense.
a new preliminary plat approved, they've got to, the only way they can do it is with that tag.
Okay. The other question I guess I have is I know in general, or maybe not in general, but throughout the city, flag lots are not allowed. How is this any different than a flag lot?
The only way physically that it's different, and let me be clear, I think it walks like a flag lot, talks
Yeah.
like a flag lot. It's very similar, except that you literally don't have a property flag that runs out to the street. You don't have that stem. The driveway would be commonly owned, and you don't have that. So that's the physical difference by way of how it's platted.
So does that mean the two properties are commonly, what's the property boundary then for number
That's
two
not gonna
then?
be a city street.
No, it's a driveway with basically one of the property owners having an easement.
So is the
to-
property line here? Is that the property line?
This image doesn't really
I think that's the
illustrate it very
property
well.
line right there for the two properties, and that this becomes a shared access easement in essence. Is that
Let me see if this
correct?
is any better here. Yeah, so maybe this is it's not a lot better, but,
It's still this.
you
is
can
the-
see that
that's
this is the
property
line, and this is the common driveway commonly owned by both parties there.
So then they're both, I mean, one of the challenges in that scenario is what happens if this guy doesn't maintain the front, current configuration and current ownership might, but maybe it sells and the guy wants to park his old jalopy in the front. I mean, it happens, and so it's a little bit tricky to me,
Yeah.
so.
You see dwelling units, we have them throughout the city in lots of different types and configurations, where a shared driveway of one kind or another is how the units are accessed. And from time to time, that has created some challenges for property owners. But what we expect this applicant to do, and any others that would create that kind of an arrangement, simply is to have legal documents that guarantee each of the different property owners certain rights by way of access, rights to maintain, and obligations to maintain. We really don't get into that typically until we get to the final plat step, when we tell applicants that they need to give us either a separate document that does that. Occasionally, if those types of provisions can be spelled out really simply, we'll just have them noted on a plat. But you're right, that's something that has to be addressed.
Is the 20-foot become a standard for that driveway configuration then?
That has its origin in the fire code.
Okay,
So, yeah.
all right.
And I guess the other thing that I'd mention, just by way of flag lot and the fact that this really looks a lot like a flag lot. The public trail here, I think, does change that a little bit, to where you've got the back unit that's oriented at least to that public space, which is a little bit different than some of the arrangement that we've had that I think have made us really loathe flag lots in certain situations, so.
In our motion, you indicate we have some flexibility with regards to architecture. Can we limit the height, as we did before? I know that's what they've proposed, but I think, I think that makes sense to limit that height to a single story as an architectural feature of that back building. Is that appropriate?
You could do that. You could go beyond, certainly, with other provisions too that you might want to force or make happen. I would absolutely answer that question. Sure.
Yeah, to me, I think that's the most important architectural feature of that building in terms of its impact on the neighbors around it. So.
And we had that just the same discussion before, so just to kind of, bring you up on previous discussions, we talked about these houses are in the backyard, these houses in the backyard, so what's the difference between a house here and the backyard? So it's a tough discussion, because where do you draw the line? I mean, there's people who have houses in their backyard all over the community.
But the difference is that this one's coming in new. When somebody bought that property, they knew that house was behind it. But somebody in this property here bought not having anything behind there, so.
I can respect that.
I think that's.
Yeah, I can respect that.
We have a similar scenario in our neighborhood, and it's caused issues, so.
I bought the 3-lot subdivision.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? I don't know that it's going to work tonight, but you can come up.
So I'm Monty Griffiths, and when I bought it, it was a 3-lot subdivision with the idea I'd tear down the front house. But I thought it was too dense, so that's why I backed it off to 2. Okay?
And what is your plan, the Rambler, the one story here?
Yeah. You got a copy of the plans.
Okay, sorry, I looked at that.
And I think that was our biggest concern when we looked at it the first time, is we thought 3 homes in that lot space was.
I looked at it probably 3 years ago, when it came up for sale, and couldn't buy it. it came back up for sale. And I still had a vision more of, stuccoing and finishing up that front home, which I've totally redone the inside. And then just putting a Rambler that's about that same height behind. So I probably will get a carport or something put on the front house. Once we get the roads back in there.
So did you sell that front house, the white one? Your son's in it?
You plan on finishing both houses similar?
Yes.
Yeah.
So both will be stucco and rock.
Anybody, thank you, sir. Anybody else like comments or like to make a motion on the Trailside subdivision?
We need to formally have the public hearing.
It's not a public hearing, is it?
It is just because of the infill overlay.
I didn't think we had to have public on zone fills, if we've already, we do? On a zone fill?
Did with the last one.
The last one?
It was a zone change.
So just like the last one, we notified all the
Not an
property
overlay,
owners
though.
within 300 feet and went through that exercise. To have a
Is there
public
anybody
hearing.
in the public that would like to address the commission? We will now open public meeting. Make note that nobody is present to come forward. It is now closed. All right. Now.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the zone change for the Trailside subdivision to the infill overlay that's proposed, based on the findings of facts that were outlined in the staff report.
I'll second that.
I have a second by Commissioner Tanner. And all in favor, say aye.
Actually, can I amend my, sorry?
Oh.
We have those, there are the conditions that the staff indicated, and I did want to add the single-story height.
Which I think I take the fact that they have this, they've submitted that image as.
Yeah. No,
That's what we're approving, but if
I
you want to
understand.
have the additional language.
I still think the additional
That's-
language is important to
Okay.
have, so. Do you want to re-second for me, Brad?
Yes, I'll
So
re-second.
I want to reiterate that we are right now just doing the overlay approval first, and then we'll do the preliminary plat second. So these are separate. Okay.
Get it
So
all,
we have
Kim?
it, so we have a motion with a fifth condition of a single-story dwelling. And do we have a second with the addition of the single-story?
Yes, second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tanner. Thank you for catching that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? We will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the same applicant for Trailside subdivision. It's the preliminary plat. We've already pretty much discussed the preliminary plat. Is there any further discussions on that? Do we have a motion to approve the preliminary plat for the Trailside?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Trailside subdivision preliminary plat.
I'll second that motion.
And just to clarify, that condition, fifth condition, should be on this motion, not the first motion.
Could be either, but yeah. we can
Yeah.
certainly handle it. We'll just duplicate them if that's.
Okay, so we'll make note that the conditions as outlined for 1 through 5 will be for the preliminary plan approval as well. And that was with Commissioner Swenson and then a second by Commissioner Tagg. And if we could have a roll, all those, let's just do it this way. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda today is, can we get all that before I move on? Good?
You're good. Do you want me to read you what the motion was?
No. Unless you're not comfortable.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just ready.
All right. You just told me to make sure that you got everything before we moved on. I would listen.
I got it.
All right.
Good job, Brad.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the preliminary plat for Spanish Trails Townhomes.
We've been in this situation quite a few times in recent years where projects simply have had some type of lapse in between plats being recorded and therefore they've lost their vesting. So like with other developments where this has happened, the applicants applied to have the preliminary plat reapproved. We've been through the preliminary plat to make sure that there's no need to have the plans changed at all to conform to our current standards and requirements, which makes it easy for us to present it to you simply with the recommendation that you reapprove the preliminary plat for the Spanish Trails development.
No changes?
No changes, and in fact, in this case, I appreciate this image. I think it illustrates well how much of the project's done. Everything with the gray shade to it is complete. So we're down to just these 3 structures here, and the project will be finished off, which the applicant would like to have a plat approved then for just that phase, that last phase, very soon. I think those 3 buildings would be built in concert, so.
I don't have the proposal.
I think with this,
Was
I
there
may
a
have just
condition, was there any,
included a
was there any, I got the memorandum, but was there any, same conditions, or were there conditions on the,
No conditions. And that's simply because the infrastructure for that is done. Spanish Trails Boulevard's built.
Yep.
Everything's in. It's just a matter of, this really is
go, that simple?
crossing the Ts and Is.
Let's,
I'll make a
oh,
motion.
do we have to have a public hearing on this one?
Not on this one.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Spanish Trails Townhomes as outlined.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fallon. Do we have a second? We have a second by Commissioner Tagg. All those in favor say aye.
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 Although, any opposed? Sweet. 0. All right, so that concludes our general business. At this time, I do have, did you get a chance to print the? I'll just ad-lib it. I have an email that I sent to Mr. Anderson and the staff to review. He's going to verify the dates, but as discussed in our last meeting, a preliminary agenda and schedule for rewriting, I don't want to say rewriting, but reviewing the general plan and making provisions or changes as we feel necessary as a team. This is basically, it allows us to get this for approval to the City Council in August of 2015. And it outlines 5 working meetings with a meeting for us for approval in June, skipping July with the 24th, and then going into the City Council in August. So we have our work. This, we'll have working assignments in December to take the month off, but work on things independently, and then come back in January. And then again, I think we have a month off in April, come back in May. So 5 meetings, of course. When I did the calendar, it was either most of them were the 3rd week of each month, where we meet the 1st week. I didn't want to do 2 consecutive weeks in a row. I do want to thank you in advance, because it will take our 1 week a month. It's going to, for the next few months, is going to be a little bit strained. I'm going to have to ask the team to put a little extra time and effort, I guess, to make this happen. But it's important to the city. So.
Will you broadcast those dates again, or was we supposed to write those months down?
Good question. So, yeah. So Dave, I wanted Dave to cross look. I don't have the city calendar and the city event. Yeah, I did.
I am sorry.
Oh. So, yeah, there's a message that says, Dave, review this before I send it out.
So the very first month is November?
Yes.
November 19th, are we still going with that day, or did you change it?
I honestly don't remember the dates on the calendars. So what I had done is, I wanted to, before I sent it out, to cross-level the date, or not cross-level, but look at the dates on the city calendar, and what I propose to make sure that there's no other things that are conflicting.
First date, I remember, is October 21st, with the idea that they're giving you the mayor
Yes.
to discuss just the concept
So I did want to have the very first meeting as a joint meeting with staff, council, commission, and kind of have what I refer to as maybe a state of the city where the mayor basically discusses what his vision is. Because we should be doing a general plan that aligns with the vision of the city. We want to be supportive of that. So I asked that Dave can arrange to make a meeting happen where we can all be in a room together. We can go to work based on their feedback, their vision, to draft and make changes that supports that vision. And then we'll come back at the end and I've even thought about where we go to city council and say, these are some of the things that we have discussed, these are changes, so that when we do go before them, that it's a document that it's been collaborated amongst everybody during the process. It's a formality at the end. I just don't want to do everything just us and then say, here you go, these are the changes. I want to include the staff and the council throughout the whole process. And then what I don't have on that proposal, Dave, if you want to look at a time and maybe just add to it, is I want to have a public hearing, allow the public to come in and provide input of what they would like to see changed in the general plan. So I want to have a public hearing as well.
Which honestly, my only critique of this, which I shared this with Brad earlier today, is that particularly from the experience I think we gained the last time we updated the general plan, and really some other things that I'm working on now, I really feel like our shortcoming has been involving the community in a significant way. So I appreciate that suggestion. And I think that's something that we have to do better now in order to make sure that the plan is going to stand some of the tests that typically we get. So I appreciate that. I think there are plenty of different ways to work that into the outline that Sharon's put together.
And then I would like to ask, and I don't know if this is the right forum or maybe an official letter, I'll talk to the mayor, but I know money is always tight, but when we talk about public hearings and things, I think that we should invest in maybe a digital sign, and we have right here on this corner that says tonight, 6 o'clock, public hearing or something. Some type of a system. I mean, we got a road here that's one of the busiest traveled roads in the city. So whether we have the funding now to do it or maybe, but I do think we need to look at a way right here at City Hall to say, tonight's city council meeting, tonight is commission.
They have that sign and that bigger room for public. Like, you moved it over to the high chaparral or something like that, it's a bigger room. They have a sign already.
So I don't know if we've thought about that when it comes to public hearing, and maybe we need to look at other options, so.
I assumed, Brad, you're referring to planning commission, city council, any kind of, I mean, you got the park and rec sign as well, so there's a couple of locations that we could, already in place that you could utilize that.
We weren't a department meeting today. I was going to say, Chris could vouch for me on this, but just communicating with the community, that's a tremendously big issue for us as a city, and I think we've been given some really good examples with some other cities in this county as to how they're doing a great job of getting the word out on all different kinds of things throughout the community. Provo's really hard to beat when it comes to that. And by far, their number one tool is social media. And you'll see some things change as residents here in the next few months relative to how we're using some of our unique facilities and assets, SFCN, and different things like that. And you'll see a change in how we advertise for your meetings, how we share information about things that are on your agenda. That's coming. So I completely appreciate just the idea of how do we get people aware. Interestingly enough, I'll just mention this, but Kim posted some things on her Facebook page last week, and from Monday afternoon to Wednesday AM, probably about 9 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, maybe 20 hours, sorry, it'd be about 44 hours later, 19,000 people had viewed what she posted on our Facebook page.
Half of those was me.
So, you know, I mean, we're trying to use these tools that otherwise I really don't use much and not very familiar with, but trying to do a better job of that.
And that's what my plea was to, I mean, I was very sincere when I reached out to the public here is, we do have opportunity for improvement. But it is challenging. And so I think that we have some opportunities there, and, you know, with maybe the other city signs, fairgrounds and the park and
Yeah,
rec on the both sides of the
exactly.
city, maybe we can utilize those. I know at times we've even put signs right coming off the freeway too, right there at the flagpoles. So there's some opportunities that we can do, so. It is late, it's 8:30. Is there anything burning that else we need to discuss tonight?
I need a head count for next week. Hopefully it's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Well, that'll be a serious bummer, Reed. Great, okay. I'll follow up with you just later in the week then, if that's okay. Love to have you, if you can make it.
So is it just, have you planned where and time and all that?
Yes. So, two things are going to happen on Wednesday. Maybe start with the important one at 7 o'clock. Everybody's invited to dinner on Wednesday night. Now, we're trying to be a little bit opportunistic.
Should we close this?
Yeah, do you want to do that?
So let me go ahead and close the meeting, and then we'll discuss some of the things afterwards. So is there any further discussions from the commission before we close the meeting?
I just want to say publicly how much I appreciate Brad and the job that you do as the chairman.
Thank you.
Just the way you interact with the public, the way you handle the meetings. You know, I really appreciate how you do that. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I also make an observation? Even though the public hearing was in question as far as information being given to the public, obviously it was successful nonetheless, because there was a large number of people here. And so I think people have to, I just want to say, when we're aware, we need to share that awareness with others. It's a lot to do with just people caring in the community and sharing that with their neighbors and friends. And so one person knows about something of concern and they share that with other people. That's what it's a public hearing for a reason. It's for the public to come in, but to recognize we're not going to call every citizen in the city.
Right.
And that when we share that information with one another, I would say the public hearing tonight was, people were well aware of it. And so maybe it wasn't as the way they wanted to hear about it, but they still did hear about it, so.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought
Good
that up.
comment.
Glad debate.
Good comment.
Brad, I appreciated the way you commented on it, which is why I didn't say anything. Kim kind of nudged me maybe to mention something, but just to be clear, it is hard to get people to come and participate sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to reach really broad groups of people that we want to get the word to. Back to why we're trying to use some new tools and things like that to share that information. But following our notice requirements for public hearings is really, really easy, and we do not blow it. We do not make mistakes. We have up-to-date, accurate information from Utah County as to who the people are that need to be noticed. We have a great geographic information system that identifies the property owners within 300 feet of a property that need to be noticed following the state law. We put the signs up on the property 10 days at least before a meeting like we're required to. It's really easy to do. Kim does an outstanding job of that. Her and I talk about it quite a bit because we never want to be in a meeting like this where somebody suggests that we didn't do something right and we get squeamish.
So I do think it's important to note, and I appreciate you saying that as well, that even though that we are challenging, that Spanish Fork City is legal. We are following things. We're going above what the requirement is. I don't want people to think that we are not meeting an expectation, that we are exceeding an expectation even.
Right, that's certainly the goal that we have. Now, the reality in a case like this, though, just last little bit of commentary, we send notices to property owners within 300 feet. When the properties are 10, 20 acres in size, you're basically just notifying the people next door. And that's really the case here. So that's why, I mean, even the gentleman that lives on that road, that lives further to the north, he's 1,000 feet away, and almost a quarter of a mile, well beyond. And if you look at another context, if we notified people, if we went beyond the state statute requirement, and in the neighborhoods that most of you guys live in, instead of went with a 300-foot radius, we went out 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
And we'd be mailing 1,000 pieces of mail in some cases, maybe to people. So we follow the state law, but we don't go beyond that. And sometimes people don't think that's enough, but yeah, several in the county. But anyways, like Brad said, it's late. Next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, we'd love to see people here then. The here is at the North Park Pavilion. I thought you closed it.
I haven't yet.
Yeah, I started it, sorry.
So it is. Without no further comments from the commission, October 1st, 2014,
Closed.
8:38 PM. I would like to make a motion to close.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.